Welcome to Wife Cheating Story. I hope you have an enjoyable and relaxing time listening. Let's get started.
Joseph leaned against the cold marble counter, Linda's laughter echoing faintly in his mind, mocking, conspiratorial, distant. The scent of her new cologne lingered like a taunt. A year of cameras, receipts, and whispers of betrayal unraveled in his thoughts as he flipped open the last folder. Karen's words rang out. "Mom deserves happiness, Dad, even if it's not with you." A bitter smile tugged at his lips. Happiness at what cost? His phone buzzed, a discreet ping from the private investigator. Tonight, the final pieces of Linda's betrayal would fall into place, but Joseph's next move would shock them all. "You'll see, Linda," he murmured to the empty room. "I've been watching every step." Part 1. Joseph Pierce woke before dawn, as he'd done every morning since college. The faint glow of the San Diego sunrise touched the edges of the horizon beyond his home's panoramic windows. For a moment, he lay still, mentally rehearsing the day's tasks. A quick review of last week's legal briefs for his company's upcoming board meeting, a check-in with his private investigator, a quiet phone call with an old friend in finance. Finally, he would have to endure the typical breakfast performance with Linda and their daughter Karen, if they even came downstairs together this time. He exhaled, swinging his legs over the side of the California king bed. His gaze flicked to Linda's side, empty once again. She had not bothered to come to bed until after midnight, and the faint scent of new cologne, not her usual brand, clung to the pillows. For months, Joseph had noted these subtle changes. Linda's shifting schedules, her phone always angled away from him, little inside jokes with Karen that ended abruptly whenever he entered the room. He resisted the surge of anger. "Keep calm," he told himself. "We're not ready yet." The truth was, he had been gathering evidence for nearly a year. His wife's suspicious behavior had begun earlier, right after her new membership at that luxurious athletic club downtown, where she'd found her perfect trainer, Thomas Harrington, a man with rumored connections to wealthy clients' wives, and a flair for crossing professional boundaries. Joseph had recognized the name from a friend's cautionary tales but said nothing, quietly installing discreet cameras in certain shared spaces of their sprawling home. Still in his pajamas, Joseph walked through the hallway to his private study. There, hidden behind a row of law textbooks, was a small, locked drawer. He opened it to reveal a handful of USB drives and file folders labeled with coded numbers. Inside those folders lay detailed logs, credit card transactions Linda couldn't explain, images from the discrete cameras, phone records from call logs he had subpoenaed with the help of a friend at the phone company. Each piece told a part of the story. Linda and Karen's alliance with Thomas, a creeping plan they might have about humiliating him or at least dismissing him as a boring older husband. Karen, their 20-year-old daughter, had come home from college last year with a disturbing new attitude entitlement dripping from every word, echoing Linda's worst impulses. Joseph had tried reasoning with her only to find her rolling her eyes, as if he were some antique father who refused to get with the times. Linda, always a step ahead in manipulations, had taken Karen's side, praising her self-discovery. Looking over his evidence, Joseph reflected that, ironically, he had once admired Linda's ambition. She had been an energetic young woman when they met studying marketing, dreaming of success. They married quickly, and for nearly 15 years, he believed they shared a vision of building a stable, happy family. He only realized the extent of her vanity and opportunism when she started frequenting the wealthiest social circles, burning through his money on status upgrades for everything from cars to lawn furniture. But he had played along, partly out of love, partly out of a hope that she would come to appreciate him beyond finances. Now it was clear she never had. The final straw was discovering Linda encouraging Karen to treat him like an old wallet, mocking his suits, his reading habits, his reluctance to party. Then came the suspicious closeness with Thomas Harrington. Linda's phone brimming with flirtatious messages, their inside jokes about open relationships, and Karen giggling about Dad's old-fashioned mindset. He locked the drawer again. Not yet. He had nearly everything in place, but a few final puzzle pieces needed verifying. Tucking the key into his robe, Joseph headed to shower. Stepping into the open-concept kitchen, Joseph found the usual scene. Karen sipping a superfood smoothie, Linda scrolling on her phone, each ignoring him. A half-filled blender and scattered fruit rinds on the expensive granite island testified to Linda's health-obsessed morning routine, which had started around the time she hired Thomas. "Morning," Joseph said, keeping his tone neutral. Karen barely looked up. "Hey," Linda forced a thin smile. "You're up early, dear. Another busy day at your office?" She always said office, with that subtle sarcasm, as if questioning how he spent his time. Joseph forced a pleasant nod. "Board meeting at 10, a legal consultation at 2. Probably won't be home early." Linda shrugged, turning to Karen. "Thomas wants me to try a new workout regimen this evening, something about advanced core training. I might be home late." Karen smirked behind her smoothie. "Lucky you, Mom. I love how Thomas is so dedicated. Wish Dad was that dedicated to fitness." Joseph endured the jab. "Fitness is good. I'm fine with my routine." Karen gave him a pitying look. "Right, your routine. Suits you, I guess." Linda tossed her phone aside in fake exasperation. "Would it kill you to join us at the club? Get to know Thomas? Everyone else's husband is open-minded about these things." Joseph steadied his breath, recalling how, a month ago, Linda had tried persuading him to meet Thomas for guidance. He'd politely declined, suspecting it was a trap. Either he'd appear too controlling if he disliked the man, or look like a fool praising Linda's trainer, while the trainer wooed her behind his back. Karen chipped in. "Thomas could give you real tips on spicing things up, like not always wearing those bland suits." She angled her phone at him, snapping a photo. "See, this is the before shot." He suppressed his anger. "Karen, enough with pictures at the breakfast table." She rolled her eyes. "It's just for my personal feed. Chill." Linda giggled conspiratorially with her daughter. "Joseph, you know Karen's generation thrives on social media. You shouldn't be so negative." Karen immediately posted a quick story. "Morning with Dad, the classic old-fashioned man, and Mom, the unstoppable fitness queen training with Thomas. Our family living better." Joseph glimpsed the caption and the mocking subtext. Over the past few weeks, such posts had grown bolder, implying the father was lagging behind while mother and daughter soared. Finishing his coffee, Joseph quietly left, ignoring Linda's loud fake, "Have a great day, darling," that she only put on when people might overhear. At midday, Joseph had a scheduled lunch with his longtime friend, Charles Moran, a discreet financial consultant who had helped Joseph structure hidden trust funds over the past 6 months. They met at a calm, upscale bistro near the financial district. "How are you holding up?" Charles asked once they were seated. "Heard from Linda or Karen this morning?" Joseph gave a humorless smile. "Their usual show. Linda bragging about Thomas's new workouts, Karen mocking me for my conservative style. They claim everyone's husband welcomes a personal trainer's involvement in the marriage." Charles shook his head. "They're trying to push your boundaries. See if you'll break." Joseph nodded, remembering the day he first confided in Charles that he suspected Linda was not just flirting with the idea of an open marriage, but actively orchestrating something humiliating. He had discovered texts on Linda's phone with Karen, referencing a plan to coax him into paying for Linda's nights out with Thomas. Yes, but soon enough, they'll face the consequences. How close are you to finalizing your evidence? Very close. The private investigator has logs from the athletic club parking receipts, Linda's secret lunches with Thomas, plus the suspicious charges on my accounts. Karen's been so brazen on social media, it's practically gift-wrapped. Charles took a sip of water. And the trust funds we arranged? All set. If the divorce hits, Linda can't touch the assets I placed there. With your help, I've made sure the house is mostly in my name. Given how I refinanced last year, she can try to claim half, but the prenup, though old, still has clauses beneficial to me if she's caught in adultery. Charles asked, "Remember that property in Santa Barbara? Did you finalize the quiet transfer?" Joseph's eyes gleamed. "Yes. That's my fallback retreat if things get too messy. Linda and Karen have no idea it exists. Once the scandal breaks, I can vanish there if needed." They paused as the waiter arrived with their orders. Once alone again, Charles leaned forward. "Any sign of your daughter's role shifting? Maybe she'll regret pushing her father aside?" Joseph exhaled, troubled. "I had hopes. But each day she grows more entangled with Linda's illusions. She's more like an accomplice than a naive kid." Charles nodded sympathetically. "Tough, but the blame still rests with Linda. She shaped Karen's worldview." Joseph toyed with his fork. "When this is over, maybe I can salvage something with Karen if she shows genuine remorse. But right now, they're unstoppable together." Before heading back to the office, Joseph confirmed with Charles the timeline. If Linda crossed a certain line, like openly using his accounts for her affair, he'd trigger the final steps, freezing assets, filing for divorce, and launching the infiltration of her social world to expose the betrayal. "Your quiet approach might sting them the hardest," Charles observed. "They think you're complacent. They'll never see it coming." "That's the plan," Joseph replied solemnly. "They want to humiliate me. Let them think I'm too spineless to act." Returning to the law firm he partly owned, Joseph was greeted by Lisa Delgado, his executive assistant. "Mr. Pierce, Ms. Karen is here. She insisted on waiting in your office." Frowning, Joseph braced himself. Karen rarely visited unannounced unless she wanted something, usually money. He found her perched in his leather chair, texting away. She looked up with an exasperated sigh. "Dad, we have a crisis," she declared. He set his briefcase down. "What crisis, Karen?" She locked her phone, crossing her arms. "Mom's extremely upset. She had a fight with Thomas about scheduling conflicts, and now she's worried you're not giving her enough financial freedom to explore her well-being." Joseph suppressed an eye roll. "Financial freedom? I pay for everything, house, cars, your college, her endless renovations, her personal trainer sessions." Karen huffed. "Mom says if you truly cared, you'd let her charge things freely. She's sick of you double-checking credit card statements." He recalled how Linda's monthly statements had ballooned to absurd figures. "I have the right to oversee my accounts, Karen." She stood, annoyance coloring her posture. "You're stifling her, Dad. She's blossoming with Thomas. She might want to take a weekend retreat with him. Some fancy spa. She says it's normal for couples who do open relationships." He parted his lips, carefully measuring his response. "And you think it's normal for me to fund that?" Karen rolled her eyes. "Modern families do it. Dad, you're just outdated. If you refuse, you're basically admitting you don't value Mom's happiness." So that's the angle now. Guilt. "Karen, your mother's happiness shouldn't revolve around me paying for a romantic spa getaway with another man. That's not normal in any sense." She let out a theatrical sigh. "Ugh, you're so close-minded. This is why I'm telling you in person," Thomas says, "if Mom doesn't get the financial support, she'll never fully commit to open marriage. That might leave you lonely forever." He almost laughed at the twisted logic. He's blackmailing me through you? That if I don't pay for them, my marriage is doomed? Karen pursed her lips. He claims to be an expert on relationships. Mom's taking it seriously. If you don't want to lose her entirely, you have to adapt. Joseph walked around his desk, leaning forward. Karen, do you hear yourself? You're telling your father that unless he funds your mother's fling, he'll lose her? That's extortion. Karen shook her head. It's not extortion, it's a condition. God, Dad, get with the times. He inhaled, playing the role of naive father. All right, let me think about it, okay? I don't want to upset your mother. A spark of triumph lit in Karen's eyes. Good. Let me know soon. The spa has limited bookings. She moved to leave, then paused. Mom also mentioned that if you ever try to stop her from seeing Thomas, well, she might have some stories to tell about your so-called business trips, rumors in your firm. He froze, heart pounding. Was Linda threatening false allegations? But outwardly he remained calm. Is that so? Karen sniffed. She said sometimes men cheat at conferences, so who knows? If you block her, she might let people think you're the real cheater. He forced a tight smile. That's interesting. We wouldn't want rumors now, would we? Karen shrugged. I'm just the messenger. Think about it, Dad. She marched out, leaving behind a cloud of expensive perfume. Joseph exhaled, his knuckles white. He typed a quick note on his phone. They threaten false allegations if I resist paying for Linda's affair. Another piece of the puzzle. Lisa popped her head in. Sir, everything okay? He nodded. Yes, Lisa, thank you. Just some family drama. Lisa frowned sympathetically. If you need anything, let me know. Joseph rummaged through his briefcase, retrieving some documents for his afternoon meeting, but mostly to distract himself from the swirl of anger inside. He recalled how, a year ago, Linda started her new social circle with those sockled progressive wives, half of them rumored to have side relationships. At the time, he brushed it off as gossip. Now it was real, and Karen was fully complicit. Stay calm, he reminded himself. You've waited this long. He had to ensure their final downfall was unmistakable, legal, and unstoppable. Late in the afternoon, Joseph was in his office preparing for an internal strategy session when his assistant, Lisa, reappeared, her face tense. Mr. Pierce, there's something you need to see. She held out an iPad. He recognized Karen's Instagram feed on the screen. What she posted this time? Not posted live streaming, Lisa said quietly, pressing play. The screen showed Karen's live broadcast from the living room of Joseph's house. Linda was behind her, dressed in a stylish outfit, packing a bag. We're about to head out, Karen chirped to the camera. Mom and I have big plans with Thomas tonight. Dad's clueless as usual. Modern family. Linda giggled in the background. He's so busy with his stuffy legal job, we can enjoy ourselves. We might even swing by that new lounge if Dad foots the bill. Joseph's stomach churned. They were publicly boasting about their betrayal, ridiculing him in real time. Lisa scrolled comments from watchers. You go, girl. Thomas is so hot, can we see him? Dad's funding it? LOL, Lisa said softly. I'm sorry. I thought you'd want to know they're mocking you publicly. He closed his eyes. Thank you, Lisa. This is helpful. Another piece of evidence, another step to ensure no doubt remains about Linda's intentions. He took a quick screen recording of the entire live stream, noting Linda's direct references to my husband's money. Then he turned to Lisa. Please forward that to my personal email, then archive it. This remains confidential. She nodded. Of course. As Lisa left, Joseph realized more strongly that Linda and Karen had truly escalated to a point of no return. They wanted not just an open arrangement, but a public shaming of him for not keeping up. Perhaps they believed he'd be too proud to let the scandal spread, that he'd cave and keep paying silently. They're wrong, he thought. Very soon, they'd see the last thing he'd do is remain silent. That evening, Joseph ended up leaving the office late. Instead of going straight home, he detoured to a quiet lounge across town to meet an acquaintance, a middle-aged man named Thomas Caldwell. No relation to Linda's trainer, but ironically sharing the same first name. This Thomas Caldwell was a former private eye who had recently come forward with a story about Linda's personal trainer, Thomas Harrington. In a private corner booth, Caldwell explained, "Your wife's trainer, Harrington, he's known for preying on wealthy clients. I used to investigate him for a husband in Glendale. Harrington seduced the wife, racked up huge bills, then blackmailed the husband with false claims of abuse." Joseph listened intently. "That's what Linda and Karen threatened me with, some false rumor about me cheating. Harrington's behind it?" Caldwell nodded. "Likely. He teaches these manipulative wives how to corner their husbands. Some pay quietly to avoid the scandal." Joseph asked, "Do you have evidence of him repeating this pattern?" Caldwell handed over a small folder. "Here, statements from 2 ex-clients, screenshots of Harrington's messages boasting about fleecing the husbands. Nothing conclusive enough for a criminal case yet, but definitely a pattern. With your resources, you can connect the dots." Joseph skimmed the documents. Indeed, Harrington had done this multiple times. "Thank you," Joseph said, adding it to his arsenal. Caldwell paused. "Listen, Mr. Pierce, I've seen how these wives end up. Harrington eventually discards them once the money runs out. If your wife and daughter are in it deep, they might try to rope you into paying hush money so you don't get labeled abusive or controlling." Joseph's jaw clenched. "They already teased that angle. I won't yield." Caldwell nodded. "I appreciate your resolve. Let me know if you need more from me." After paying Caldwell for his time, Joseph left with another invaluable puzzle piece. Harrington's prior victims had also been manipulated into silence. Not this time. Approaching midnight, Joseph finally drove up to his upscale suburban mansion. The place was quiet, though Linda's car was missing, likely out with Karen. He entered, noticing how the once lively home had turned hollow. The decor Linda insisted on felt sterile, a set piece for her social media illusions. In the living room, he spotted Karen's phone charger and a half-eaten pastry. So they left in a hurry for their big night with Thomas, no doubt. Did they expect him to read about it on Instagram? With a sigh, he retreated to his private study, unlocking the same drawer. He carefully added Caldwell's documents about Harrington to the growing stash. Then he flicked through new messages on his phone. Sure enough, Karen's feed had fresh updates. Stories about fun night with mom, Thomas's unstoppable one life no regrets, apparently from some nightclub. One photo showed Karen, who was only 20, holding a cocktail. Another poor choice for them public underage drinking, further evidence if needed. With a grim sense of satisfaction, he saved the stories. He typed a text to Charles. "Thomas Harrington repeated pattern. Confirmed. Extra docs from Caldwell. They're at a nightclub with him right now. Proceeding with final steps soon." Charles replied almost instantly. "Got it. Freeze final batch of accounts if they attempt new charges tonight?" Joseph wrote back, "Yes, let's do that. Also, alert me if any suspicious activity appears on Linda's or Karen's cards." At nearly 2 a.m., Joseph sat in his study reading old diaries Linda once kept reminders that she used to dream of simpler joys before money corrupted everything. The front door slammed, voices carrying up the hallway. Linda's laughter shrill from alcohol and Karen's giggles. He recognized a third voicemail. brash. Thomas Harrington? They brought him home? At 2 a.m.? Clenching his jaw, Joseph quickly set his phone to record audio, placing it discreetly on the bookshelf. He stepped into the hallway, pretending to look half asleep. Linda was in the foyer, leaning on Thomas Harrington's arm, while Karen rummaged through her purse. "Mom, he can crash in the guest suite, right?" "Dad's never around." Thomas Harrington, tall and fit, wearing a smug grin, locked eyes with Joseph. "Hey, man, sorry for the late intrusion, but Linda insisted. We just need a place to rest after the club." Joseph forced a neutral expression, though inside, anger boiled. "You're in my house." Linda's laugh was brimming with forced boldness. "Don't be so dramatic, Joseph. We had some drinks, so it's safer if Thomas sleeps here than drives home." Thomas smirked. "Chill out, old man. We'll be gone in the morning, unless you want me to do a quick workout session with your wife." Karen giggled. "Dad, lighten up. You're so old-fashioned." Joseph steeled himself. "Fine. The guest suite is that way. Just keep the noise down." Thomas gave an exaggerated bow. "Much obliged, sir." Linda wrapped an arm around Thomas's waist, shooting Joseph a mocking grin. "See, you can be modern if you try." She practically led Harrington down the hall. Karen lingered, arms folded. "Dad, don't ruin this, okay? Mom deserves happiness. If you can't give it, let someone else do it." Then she trailed after them. Standing alone in the foyer, Joseph inhaled, feeling the tension in every muscle. They had brought her affair partner into his home. This was the line crossed. Yet he had to remain calm. The final blow needed airtight evidence. He discreetly tapped a hidden app on his phone, activating cameras in the guest suite as well, capturing audio and video. They were too brazen now, convinced he was powerless. Let them believe it. He spent the rest of the night in his study, ignoring the occasional laughter or muffled voices from the guest suite. Each moment they spent in his house added to the incriminating footage. Dawn found Joseph sipping coffee in the kitchen, posture upright, face impassive. Linda, with disheveled hair and wearing one of his shirts as a makeshift robe, stumbled in. She froze, seeing Joseph so calm. "Morning," she managed. "Morning," he replied without warmth. "Have fun last night?" She forced a smile. "It was interesting. You're surprisingly relaxed about this." He shrugged. "You said we should be modern." Karen shuffled in next, sporting a mild hangover. "Dad, do we have any painkillers?" Joseph slid a bottle across the counter. "Help yourself." Thomas Harrington sauntered in last, shirtless under a half-zipped hoodie. He yawned and stretched flamboyantly. "Nice place, man. You must be loaded." Karen snickered. Linda gave Joseph a coy look, as if to say, "See? We're unstoppable." Thomas grabbed a glass of juice. "So, Joseph, you got any big meetings today, or can we chat about potential arrangements? Linda said you might be open to letting me train her exclusively." He smirked. "A retainer of sorts. I can keep her in top shape physically and emotionally if you pay a monthly fee." Joseph's grip tightened on his mug. "A monthly fee?" Linda interjected. "Don't be so outraged. Many couples do something like this. He devotes special attention to me. I stay happy. You keep focusing on your career. Win-win." Karen nodded vigorously. "Yes, Dad. This could solve all the tension. Thomas is extremely skilled. Mom raves about him." Joseph let silence hang in the air, letting them interpret it as hesitancy. Finally, he said, "We can talk after I get back from the office. Maybe I do need to adapt." Thomas clapped him on the shoulder. "That's the spirit. No need for petty jealousy or old-school drama." Joseph forced a stiff smile, stepping away from them. I'll see you all tonight. Make yourselves comfortable." "Count on it," Thomas said, winking at Linda. As Joseph left, Karen called out, "Don't forget, Dad. We need your card for groceries and a few extras." She winked suggestively. Joseph just nodded vacantly, mentally noting every detail. They won't see what's coming, he thought as he drove away. At midday, Joseph had a crucial meeting with his private investigator, a middle-aged woman named Lisa Hastings, coincidentally sharing a first name with his assistant, but different. She arrived at his law firm's private conference room with a portfolio of evidence. "Mr. Pierce," Hastings greeted calmly, "I have compiled the footage from your home's guest suite last night explicit enough to confirm Linda's full-blown affair. Also, the audio reveals Thomas proposing a monthly retainer to keep the affair discreet. Karen is heard supporting the arrangement. That's blackmail." Joseph exhaled slowly. "So, we have them." "Perfect." Hastings laid out documents. "Credit card logs show Linda and Karen used your secondary card to pay for that club last night. It's about $2,500 in charges, drinks, VIP seating. Then they used the same card at a diner at 3 a.m. with Harrington. So it's unequivocally unauthorized personal usage." Joseph's eyes hardened. "Yes, that's consistent with them bragging about me footing the bill. Also, they threatened me with false rumors if I refused." Hastings nodded. "We have that recorded. Enough for extortion charges. The question is, how do you want to proceed? Civil? Criminal?" He tapped his fingers on the table. "I want a divorce that leaves them with minimal claims on my assets, plus potential criminal charges if they push further. Linda can face the consequences. If Karen's also indicted, so be it, though I might consider leniency if she shows genuine remorse." Hastings looked at him carefully. "This will be messy. The media might get wind, given your position. Are you prepared for that?" "Yes," Joseph said firmly. "I have a plan. Charles is finalizing the safe distribution of my main assets, transferring real estate under trusts. Once the divorce is filed, Linda can't claim ignorance. She's been cheating and scamming me, that's all documented." Hastings handed him a USB. "Your personal copy. I'll keep the original evidence secure. If you need more, call me." Joseph thanked her, feeling an odd sense of calm. The final steps were near. Early the next morning, Joseph entered his home quietly, having stepped out before dawn for an impromptu errand, in truth, to send critical documentation to his private investigator. He expected to find Linda and Karen in the kitchen or living room. Instead, as he walked past the guest suite door, he overheard raised voices inside. Karen's tone carried through the door. "Mom, you said Dad was clueless. Then why does he seem so calm? You saw how he looked at Thomas last night?" Linda hissed. "It's just an act, dear. Joseph always caves. He's never followed through on a threat in his life." Thomas Harrington's voice chimed in, smooth but with an edge of doubt. "Well, if he stays quiet, that's good for us. But don't forget, Linda, you promised a bigger budget if I focus more on your well-being." Karen cut in. "Dad might be old-fashioned, but once we show him how beneficial it is, he'll pay. Just wait, he'll pay for everything." Joseph's jaw clenched as he leaned closer, recording audio discreetly on his phone. Their arrogance was shocking. Linda said in a lower tone, "Thomas, if Joseph refuses, we might have to push the false rumor angle. You know, telling people we found suspicious texts on his phone, or that he's emotionally abusive. He'd hate that scandal." Karen chimed in eagerly. "That'll keep him in line. He hates public drama more than anything. He'll do anything to avoid it." Joseph heard Thomas sigh. "All right, but let's handle it carefully. I don't want cops showing up or anything extreme." Linda let out a cynical laugh. Joseph doesn't have the spine for that. Watch. He'll roll over. Joseph stepped away, heart pounding. He had them on record conspiring to threaten him with false allegations. Perfect. Another wedge of evidence for the final blow. Shortly after, Joseph staged his presence in the kitchen. When Linda, Karen, and Thomas eventually emerged, looking somewhat disheveled from the previous night's partying, he was already seated with a cup of coffee. "Oh, you're still here," Thomas said, trying for casual confidence but betraying a hint of caution. Joseph stirred his coffee calmly. "Indeed. Couldn't sleep well. Thought I'd see how my guests fared." Linda brushed her hair back, adopting an air of breezy entitlement. "We're all heading to the athletic club soon. Thomas has a training slot for me. Then Karen might do a quick Pilates." Karen nodded, scowling at Joseph. "We'll put it on your card, obviously." He set his mug down. "Actually, that card's near its limit. I might have to move funds around." Linda's eyes narrowed briefly, but she masked it with a short laugh. "Just do whatever you must, dear. Thomas and I have plans." Thomas stared Joseph down. "Linda tells me you might pay for a special monthly arrangement. A retainer, so to speak, ensuring I focus all my professional energy on your wife's fitness, happiness." Joseph raised an eyebrow. "Oh, I recall something like that. Let's discuss it tonight. I have a busy day at the firm." Thomas exhaled smugly. "Sure, we can do that. No rush, but we want to finalize it soon." Karen gave Joseph a mocking half-smile. "See, Dad, the future can be bright if you adapt. Stop clinging to outdated ideas." He forced a nod. "I'll keep that in mind." Inwardly, he marveled at how deeply they'd trapped themselves. The audio recordings from last night and this morning's conversation gave him everything needed to prove conspiracy and infidelity. They assumed he'd never fight back. So be it. Late that afternoon, Joseph returned home, briefly, accompanied by Charles Moran, the discreet financial consultant. Charles was there under the guise of house reappraisal for insurance. But in truth, he was helping Joseph confirm which valuables were solely Joseph's property, ensuring they'd be shielded from Linda's potential claims. They strolled through the living and dining areas, Charles making notes on a clipboard. Linda, fresh from a shower post-training session, confronted them. "Joseph, what's going on?" He gave a mild shrug. "Charles is verifying some insurance details. We wouldn't want to lose track of how many expansions or purchases we made." Linda's expression flickered with unease. "Why so sudden?" Charles smiled politely. "Routine, Mrs. Pierce. My company does surprise verifications to keep policies accurate." Linda folded her arms, suspecting something amiss, but Karen breezed in. "Mom, Thomas is waiting outside. We're heading to the spa. Let Dad do his boring insurance thing." Linda exhaled. "All right. Don't let him undervalue anything, Joseph. Our new sculptures alone cost a fortune." Charles paused at a newly installed sculpture in the hallway, an expensive, abstract piece Linda acquired last month. "This was purchased with your personal funds, Mr. Pierce, or was it from Linda's separate accounts?" Joseph carefully recalled the receipt. "Actually, it was on my American Express business card. She insisted it was an investment, so presumably it's mine legally." Linda rolled her eyes. Sure. Just hurry." Then she left with Karen to join Thomas outside. When they were gone, Joseph turned to Charles, quietly explaining how Linda had used his business card for multiple personal luxuries. The more items that were proven to be Joseph's, the less Linda could claim in a divorce. Charles nodded. "Brilliant. The paper trail is all in your name. She's never contributed financially from her own separate property for these big-ticket items. By default, They remain yours under the prenuptial sections about commingled funds. They headed upstairs. Charles confirmed more personal property aligned with Joseph's accounts. With each notation, Joseph felt more assured that Linda's illusions of a lavish windfall after divorcing him would soon crumble. That evening, Joseph visited the prestigious Mountain Grove Country Club, where Linda had insisted on membership. He had received a discreet message from Charles Jenkins, a board member there who hinted that Linda's interactions with Thomas had caused talk among the membership. In the plush lounge, Jenkins greeted Joseph with a firm handshake. "I appreciate you coming. We need to discuss your wife's behavior." Joseph feigned mild concern. "Is there an issue?" Jenkins cast a wary glance. "We like Linda, but many members are complaining about how she brings Thomas around, flirting openly and charging questionable expenses to your membership account. There's talk of discipline or even revoking membership if it continues." Joseph pursed his lips. "I see. Has she truly caused that much disruption?" Jenkins sighed. "She and your daughter seem to treat the club as a place to recruit other bored wives for this personal trainer. Some have come to me, uncomfortable with his approach, and the rumored open marriage proposals, frankly, it tarnishes our reputation." Yes, Joseph had heard Linda mention introducing girlfriends to Thomas. So she was playing the role of a connector, likely for a fee. Perfect. More evidence. "I understand," Joseph said gravely. "Believe me, I don't approve. You have my support if you need to take official action." Jenkins raised an eyebrow. "That's surprisingly direct. I recall Linda once saying you'd be furious if the membership were threatened." Joseph forced a tight smile. "Things have changed. If her behavior violates the club's standards, do what you must. I won't interfere." Jenkins nodded, evidently relieved. "I appreciate your candor, Mr. Pierce. We'll keep you informed." In the car afterward, Joseph updated Hamilton via phone. "The country club might expel Linda. That adds more social fallout. Possibly we can use it as leverage if she tries to claim big spousal support." Hamilton replied, "Indeed. Once she's publicly disgraced among that circle, her credibility is shot." Joseph stared at the steering wheel. "They're alienating themselves from every respectable sphere. Let them." Around midnight, Joseph was in his study reading depositions from a recent corporate lawsuit. Abruptly, Karen burst in, tears streaking her cheeks. He braced himself. "What now?" "Dad, Mom's freaking out. The country club posted a notice about an investigation into misconduct. People are gossiping that she might be expelled." He pretended to be taken aback. "What does that have to do with me?" Karen's tears turned accusatory. "We know you talked to Charles Jenkins. You must have told him to do this. They wouldn't dare otherwise. Mom's inconsolable. This was her social circle." He closed the file calmly. "Karen, your mother's actions have consequences. Bringing Harrington around, recruiting wives to do who knows what the club has standards." Karen sniffed. "Dad, come on. We only wanted a bit of fun. Why are you punishing us? Everyone's turning against Mom now. She says it's your fault for not defending her." He studied her. "So if I had defended her, the club would ignore blatant misconduct? That's not how it works." Unexpectedly, Karen seemed on the verge of a genuine apology. "Look, I never meant for it to blow up like this. I just wanted us to be a more interesting family, not stuck in old ways." But then Linda arrived, eyes blazing. "Joseph, you can fix this. Call Jenkins. Say it's all a misunderstanding or else—" He folded his arms. "Or else what?" She exchanged a glance with Karen, who nodded. Linda took a breath. "Or else we spread rumors that you have secret affairs, gambling problems, or questionable tax dealings. We know plenty of people in your business circles. Your reputation would suffer." Joseph felt a cold wave of certainty. This was their final open threat. He forced a calm exhale, recalling the recordings capturing exactly such a threat. "And how would you prove these rumors? They're baseless." Linda sneered. "Doesn't matter if they're true. People love scandals. So unless you publicly intervene to save my membership, we'll start dropping hints." Karen folded her arms, eyes flicking with that manipulative glint. "Let's see how you like being ostracized." He stood, meeting Linda's gaze. "Are you sure you want to do that?" Her lip curled. "Yes, if you give us no choice. Save my membership or face the rumor mill. Your call, Joseph?" He nodded slowly, picking up his phone. "All right, Linda, if that's how you feel, just remember, once the rumor mill starts, I can't guarantee your side remains unscathed." She smirked. "We'll handle ourselves. We have lots of friends." He stared at Karen, hoping for a glimmer of doubt, but she matched her mother's resolute stance. "We're doing this, Dad. Don't blame us if your so-called prestige gets shredded." Inside, Joseph felt a bleak acceptance. They were fully prepared to ruin him publicly, unless he caved again. So be it. They had no idea how thoroughly he'd prepared. Before dawn the next day, Joseph methodically reviewed the checklists with Charles Moran and Hamilton over a secure conference call: asset protection, transfer of certain properties into a newly formed LLC under Joseph's exclusive control, paperwork completed, Linda's name not included. Trust funds. The separate trusts Joseph created remain safely out of Linda's reach. Karen can only access them under conditions of good behavior, which she has now violated. Evidence: audio recordings of Linda and Karen's threats, video from the guest suite showing Thomas's repeated presence, and proof of unauthorized charges on Joseph's accounts. Legal filings. Hamilton has the divorce petition ready, citing adultery, financial misconduct, and intimidation. Also, potential defamation counters if Linda pushes false rumors. Private investigator. Lisa Hastings stands by with documented proof of Harrington's prior manipulations, plus the Glendale man's statement ready for a potential criminal complaint. Joseph also reached out to a discreet media liaison, someone who could swiftly bury any false rumors Linda might launch by countering with real evidence of her wrongdoing. He had no intention of going public unless forced, but if Linda tried to smear him, he'd respond in kind, ensuring every scandalous detail of her scheme overshadowed any gossip about him. Charles concluded, "Everything's in place, Joseph. The moment Linda or Karen attempt a big sabotage, we pull the trigger, or you can pull it now, preempting them." Joseph weighed that. "They're so sure I'll yield. Let them show their hand. Once I see they're about to publicly defame me, I'll strike first." Hamilton concurred. "Yes, gather a final piece. If they truly attempt an open extramarital arrangement publicly or try to extort you again, we file everything." Joseph felt a heavy calm. Agreed. Let them walk into the trap. That afternoon, Linda and Karen posted a short video. They were at a beachside restaurant with Thomas, calling it Family Beach Day, but Dad's too busy lame to join. The mocking tone was evident. Karen's caption, "Dad's missing out again while we have fun with Thomas." Modern Family Evolve Linda's cameo. "Maybe Joseph will get the message that I need more excitement, right, Thomas? He's lucky we still keep him around for finances, ha. Thomas lounged between them, smirking. "All good. We can handle Dad's wallet. Dad's schedule." Joseph quietly archived the post. So many receipts. A side note popped up on Karen's separate feed. She had started an online fundraiser to support my new life path, vaguely implying she'd been neglected by her father. The description read, Dad might cut me off for being too real, so I need independent funds. Any donations help me keep living free and exploring fitness with Mom and Thomas." Utter audacity, Joseph thought. She was publicly soliciting money, painting him as a villain. The fundraiser had a modest goal, but the comments were full of people mocking Joseph or praising Karen's courage. He screenshotted every bit. One evening, Joseph's personal assistant, Lisa Delgado, knocked on his office door. She looked concerned. "Mr. Pierce, I overheard a phone conversation from Karen earlier in the lobby. She was on speaker talking with Thomas, bragging about how they plan to publicly corner you at some upcoming event. Something about next Tuesday's charity gala?" Joseph set down his pen. That charity gala was an annual highlight, hosted by his own law firm's partner circle. Linda typically attended with him to maintain appearances. If she and Thomas planned a public stunt there, it could be disastrous for Joseph's professional image unless he was prepared. Lisa Delgado continued. "Karen said, 'Dad can't escape in front of the entire crowd. We'll show him that open marriage is normal, and he'll be forced to accept or be humiliated.'" A quiet fury sparked in Joseph's chest. This was the final push they were planning, likely unveiling Linda's involvement with Thomas in front of donors and colleagues, humiliating Joseph if he resisted. Possibly they'd stage something big, like Linda showing up with Thomas on her arm, publicly kissing him, at Joseph's own event. He nodded at Lisa. "Thank you. You did the right thing telling me." Lisa added, "Are you going to cancel the gala or something?" Joseph shook his head. "No, let them attempt their stunt. I'll handle it." Now, the final confrontation was set. Next Tuesday, Linda, Karen, and Thomas would try to corner Joseph publicly. Good. He'd have the last piece of evidence, public proof of their betrayal and extortion. Then he'd strike. The night of the charity gala arrived. Held at an upscale downtown hotel, the ballroom glittered with the city's elite. Joseph, wearing a sharp-tailored suit, arrived early to greet colleagues and ensure any prying eyes saw him as calm and professional. He had secretly stationed Lisa Hastings, the private investigator, among the catering staff to record any drama that might unfold. Linda and Karen arrived fashionably late, stepping from a limousine with Thomas at Linda's side. Gasps rippled through the crowd. People recognized Linda as Joseph's wife, yet she was on another man's arm, with Karen trailing behind, eyes gleaming with anticipation. The trio strode across the ballroom, ignoring the shocked faces of Joseph's associates. Linda wore a show-stopping red gown that left little to the imagination, while Thomas, smug in a tux, kept a possessive hand on her waist. Karen hovered near them, snapping photos, presumably for more social media exposés. Joseph, stationed near the stage, watched them approach. He glimpsed Karen's phone camera angled, capturing his reaction. Linda and Thomas closed in, ignoring the stares from the wealthy donors. With a flourish, Karen said, voice pitched to Carrie, "Dad, so sweet. You could come alone. Mom's got a new date tonight." A hush fell around them. People who knew Joseph or Linda were gawking. Some recognized Thomas from rumors of an affair with Linda. Linda smirked at Joseph. "Joseph, this is a new era. Remember? Didn't you say you'd consider being modern?" Thomas gave Joseph a mockingly polite nod. "We're taking Linda to dinner after this. You're free to pay for the wine, right?" Linda fluttered her eyelashes. "I'm sure Joseph wouldn't mind. In fact, I think he wants to show everyone how progressive he is." Karen lifted her phone, filming. "Say hi to everyone, Dad. Let them know you fully support Mom's new relationship." The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Some turned away, not wanting to witness this domestic spectacle. Joseph's business partner, Charles, the friend, not the newly introduced Charles Jenkins from the country club, looked on with alarm. Joseph calmly stepped forward. "Linda, Thomas, and Karen. Quite the entrance. Enjoying yourselves?" Thomas tried to drape an arm around Linda's shoulders. "Yes, but we need a bigger show. You're not objecting, are you?" Here, Linda stepped in front of Joseph, raising her voice so onlookers could hear. "You see, everyone, Joseph is so supportive that he's letting me explore what truly makes me happy. Isn't that right, darling?" Karen giggled, phone trained on Joseph. "Come on, Dad. Say something." At that moment, Detective Caldwell, the Glendale man's reference, and Lisa Hastings discreetly stepped inside the ballroom per Joseph's arrangement. They positioned themselves to film or witness the confrontation from different angles. Linda turned to the crowd. "Joseph, dear, if you'd kindly announce your acceptance of my open arrangement with Thomas, we can all celebrate. If not, well, let's just say I might reveal certain secrets about you." A collective hush. People whispered, scandalized. Joseph let the tension build. He cleared his throat, voice resonant. "Linda, are you sure you want to do this publicly? Right here? Right now?" Linda tossed her hair. "Oh, absolutely. This is the perfect place to modernize our marriage. Everyone can see how grown-up we are." Karen shoved her phone closer to Joseph's face. "Tell them, Dad. Tell them you're paying for Mom's new romance, or we spill everything about your sockled shady deals." Thomas smirked. "Tick-tock, old man. We have dinner reservations and no time for drama." Joseph paused, scanning the crowd, his colleagues, clients, donors. They watched with mixtures of pity, curiosity, and disgust. Then, with deliberate calm, Joseph took the microphone from a nearby podium. He tapped it lightly, making sure the amplifier caught his voice. He turned to Linda, Karen, and Thomas. "You claim I'm ready to accept an open arrangement? Actually, I have a different announcement." They froze, uncertain. Linda frowned. "What are you talking about?" Karen hissed. "Dad, what are you doing?" Joseph's gaze swept the ballroom. "I want to set the record straight. My ex-wife Toby, and my daughter have conspired with Mr. Harrington to extort me, humiliate me, and defraud me financially. They threatened to spread false rumors about me if I refused to pay for Linda's romantic escapades with him." Gasps erupted among the audience. Linda's face blanched. Karen's phone wobbled in her grip. Thomas snorted. "That's absurd." Joseph raised a hand. "I have the evidence. Audio recordings, text messages, even social media posts from Karen showcasing their entire plan to corner me financially. Linda, your attempt to threaten me here only finalizes your fate." He gestured to Lisa Hastings, who stood by the side with a small projector or tablet. She began playing short clips, Linda's voice telling Karen, "We'll manipulate Joseph to pay for Thomas." And Karen's mocking posts, bragging about humiliating Dad. The crowd murmured in shock. Some recognized Karen's Instagram handle. Thomas Harrington lunged forward. "You can't just show that publicly." Joseph stared him down. "And you can't break the law by extorting me. Mr. Harrington, we also have statements from your previous victims in Glendale, plus camera footage from my home capturing your overnight visits. The cops are quite interested in your pattern." Linda frantically tried to snatch the device from Lisa Hastings, but Lisa sidestepped. "I'm working under instructions from Mr. Pierce's legal team," she said calmly. Karen whirled to her father. "How could you do this? You're humiliating us." "Humiliating you?" Joseph's voice rose with quiet intensity. "You broadcast your betrayal on social media, paraded your lover around this gala, demanded I publicly endorse your affair, threatened false rumors. All I did was document the truth." The entire audience gaped. Some took out phones, filming. The humiliator became the humiliated. Linda looked like she might faint. A security guard approached, uncertain whether to intervene. Joseph motioned him aside. "It's fine. Let them speak." Thomas, face red, tried to salvage pride. "You think you can ruin me? I have powerful connections." Joseph interrupted. "We'll see how powerful you are when the Glendale husband's lawsuit hits, plus my charges. The civil suits from those other wives, the country club's official complaint. Should I go on?" Thomas's bravado faltered. You set me up," Karen wailed. "Dad, you're destroying us. I can't, this is so messed up." Linda, trembling with rage, spat. "You're no better than a snake, Joseph. Gathering evidence in secret, that's betrayal." He gave a bitter laugh. "Betrayal? Let's see which is more vile, me quietly documenting your wrongdoing or you cheating, conspiring, threatening me in my own house." Linda lunged as if to slap him, but a bystander, a colleague of Joseph's, caught her arm. The colleague whispered, "Don't do something you'll regret." Suddenly, Detective Caldwell, the Glendale man's contact in the police, stepped forward with uniformed officers. "Apologies for the interruption, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Harrington, we need you for questioning regarding multiple fraud cases and potential conspiracy to extort. Ms. Pierce, we also have questions for you regarding your involvement." Chaos erupted. Linda shrieked, "No, this is all a misunderstanding!" Karen sobbed, "Dad, do something!" Thomas tried to flee, but the uniformed officers blocked his path. Joseph, microphone in hand, addressed the stunned crowd. "My apologies for the disruption, folks. This is not how I wanted the evening to go. But truth must be unveiled." He stepped aside as the police took Thomas and Linda aside for questioning. Karen fell to her knees, tears streaming, phone dropping from her hand. The entire ballroom watched the final meltdown, a meticulously orchestrated unveiling of Linda, Karen, and Thomas's scheme. Joseph calmly parted the crowd, glancing at a shell-shocked Linda as officers cuffed Thomas. Their eyes met. Linda's face contorted with horror. "You planned everything," Joseph exhaled. "I gave you every chance to stop. You refused. Now face the consequences." The charity gala's scene ended with Thomas arrested, Karen sobbing, and Linda frantically protesting to the police that Joseph had orchestrated a trick. Ultimately, the police led Thomas away in handcuffs while Linda and Karen were taken aside to give statements. Joseph departed the venue calmly, ignoring onlookers who whispered about the sensational meltdown. Early the next morning, Joseph woke in his home, still legally his for the final time, with Linda and Karen under the same roof. Linda had returned at dawn, presumably after hours at the station. The tension in the house was palpable. Joseph emerged from the master bedroom, finding Linda seated at the dining table, eyes bloodshot from tears or lack of sleep. Karen hovered behind her, subdued. Linda's voice was hoarse. "Thomas is in jail because of you. Karen and I had to answer humiliating questions all night. They seized our phones for evidence. The police took everything out of context." Joseph merely poured himself coffee. "Context. The videos, texts, and posts speak for themselves." Karen, face puffy from crying, glared. "Dad, this is insane. You turned a private matter into a public scandal." He stared her down. "You made it public, streaming on Instagram, parading your mother's boyfriend at my event, threatening me with rumors. I simply responded with facts." Karen hesitated, tears filling her eyes again. "Now the school says I might face disciplinary action. Some donors at the gala recognized me. They're calling the administration to complain about my behavior. My scholarship could be revoked." Linda clutched her head. "You've ruined everything, Joseph. Don't you see we were just exploring a modern approach? You had no right to sabotage Thomas like that." He raised an eyebrow. "I had every right. He was committing fraud, seducing multiple wives for money, and you aided him. The police see it as conspiracy to extort me. If you want to blame someone, blame yourselves." Linda shot to her feet. "No court will side with you. I'll find a lawyer who'll prove your entrapment. We'll say you framed us." Joseph sipped his coffee calmly. "I have a year's worth of evidence. You can try to spin it, but the only ones who might buy your story are gullible bystanders. Good luck in court. Meanwhile, I've filed for divorce, citing adultery and attempted extortion. Papers should be delivered soon." Linda stumbled back. "Divorce? You were serious?" Karen grabbed Linda's arm, eyes wide. "Mom, do something!" But for once, Linda had no snappy retort. She sank into a chair, burying her face in her hands. "I never thought you were always so mild." Joseph retrieved a thick envelope from his briefcase. "Hamilton's letter. Inside are official divorce documents and a restraining order request that can be activated if you or Karen escalate threats." He placed it on the table. "Sign or fight, it's your choice. But we both know how the evidence weighs." Karen inhaled shakily. "Dad, can't we talk about a settlement? Something smaller? We don't have to go to trial, right?" He regarded her, feeling a pang of sorrow. She was still his daughter, but the damage she'd done was immense. "That depends on your willingness to be honest, to accept fault." Linda's voice trembled. "And if we do? Accept fault? Then what? Then maybe you avoid the harshest penalties. Maybe you avoid jail time if the DA goes after conspirators. You might salvage a fraction of marital assets if you cooperate. But if you keep doubling down, I'll let the courts crush you." Silence reigned. That afternoon, Detective Rogers, coordinating with Glendale's Detective Caldwell, visited the Pierce residence. Linda and Karen were in the living room, sullen, while Joseph invited Rogers in. Rogers spoke politely but firmly. "Mrs. Pierce, Miss Pierce, we have new developments in Mr. Harrington's case. We found extensive phone records showing your communications with him about targeting other wealthy husbands. We also discovered suspicious bank transfers where Harrington appears to have paid you a referral fee." "Care to comment?" Linda paled. It's not what it looks like. He said it was just a thank you for recommending him to the wives. We didn't target anyone." Rogers nodded. "You can explain that to the DA. Meanwhile, Mr. Harrington is implicating you both as active accomplices in his scheme. He says you introduced him to multiple women, encouraged them to open lines of credit, and bragged about how you'd keep your own husband in check." Karen's face twisted. "He's lying to save himself." Rogers shrugged. "Possibly. But combined with your public Instagram posts, like the one bragging about recruiting another bored wife from your country club, well, the pattern is compelling." Joseph watched silently, arms folded, letting the detective do his job. Linda stammered. "Thomas is flipping on us to reduce his sentence, that's all. He's the real criminal." Rogers arched a brow. "You might be correct about him, but that doesn't absolve you or your daughter if you knowingly cooperated or benefited. Just letting you know the DA might want to press charges unless you consider a plea deal." Karen gasped. "A plea deal? We're not criminals." Rogers cast her a measured look. "That's not what the evidence suggests. Anyway, I'll see you in formal interview soon." He turned to Joseph. "Mr. Pierce, if you have further evidence, send it to me. This is bigger than we thought." Joseph gave a curt nod. "Will do." As Rogers left, Karen whirled to Linda, eyes frantic. "Mom, what do we do if we get indicted?" Linda hissed. "Stop panicking. We'll hire the best lawyer. We can blame Harrington for everything." Joseph spoke up. "Good luck with that. Meanwhile, I strongly suggest you consult the divorce documents. The longer you delay, the worse it gets financially." Later that evening, Joseph sat alone in his study. A timid knock sounded Karen's voice. "Dad, can I come in?" He allowed her inside. She looked exhausted, guilt etched on her face. For once, the arrogance was gone, replaced by trembling lips. She swallowed. "I'm sorry for everything. I never meant for it to go this far." He watched her carefully, not sure if this was another manipulation. "Go on." Karen lowered her gaze. "I guess I got carried away with Mom's talk about open relationships and Thomas's flattery, and the idea that you were so stuck in your ways. I thought humiliating you might force you to be cooler. I was stupid." He raised an eyebrow. "So you admit you intentionally tried to humiliate me?" A tear slid down her cheek. "Yes, but I thought it was harmless. I never realized Thomas was conning multiple families, or that the police would get involved. Now I might lose everything. My scholarship, my reputation." Joseph felt a flicker of pity but kept his composure. "Actions have consequences, Karen. You posted vile taunts, aided your mother's infidelity, threatened me. It wasn't harmless," she sobbed softly. "I know. I'll do anything to fix this. Please, can you talk to the university, or maybe not push for the maximum punishment so the DA doesn't charge me?" He studied her. "That depends. Will you testify truthfully against Thomas and your mother if needed? Will you sign an affidavit admitting your role and clarifying that I was the victim?" Karen paled. "That means betraying Mom. She'll never forgive me." He sighed. "You want me to rescue you from legal repercussions, but you're unwilling to come clean?" She twisted her hands. I need time to think." He shrugged. "I can't help you if you're not honest. The DA is building a case. If you want leniency, cooperating is your best bet." He paused. "But if you keep siding with your mother's lies, you'll face the music alone." Karen sniffled. "Okay. Let me talk to my own lawyer. Maybe I can come forward with partial truth, at least about the social media stuff." Joseph stood, guiding her gently to the door. "That's up to you. But do it quickly. The legal wheels are in motion." Later that same night, Linda cornered Joseph in the living room. She wore a robe, hair damp from a shower, eyes blazing with leftover anger and fear. She spoke in a low, urgent tone. "Karen told me you demanded she testify against me. Are you serious? You'd tear your own family apart?" He stared at her, unflinching. "You already tore it apart. I'm just revealing the truth." She tried a softer approach, stepping closer. "We had 20 years together, Joseph. Doesn't that matter? I can't believe you want to see me destroyed. Ryan manipulated me. He made me believe we had something special." He gave a humorless chuckle. "You helped him target other wives. Don't pretend you were just a naive victim. We have your referral messages, receipts, e-introductions." "You got referral fees, Linda." She flinched. "That was Thomas's idea. I just thought it was a perk." He sighed. "Stop. I'm done listening to your rationalizations. If you sign the divorce settlement, Ace is basically walking away with minimal spousal support. Maybe the DA sees you as cooperative. If you fight me, you risk heavier charges." Her eyes brimmed with tears, but he sensed they were manipulative tears. "I can't survive on minimal support, Joseph. This house is my domain, my friends, my social status," she inhaled sharply. "If you don't renegotiate something fairer, I'll go nuclear with personal secrets about your company, your deals. Don't think I didn't snoop the Furby. I know I'll through your files over the years. I can spin them however I want." Anger flared in Joseph, but he forced calm. "Go ahead. People trust me enough to know anything you invent is a lie, and you have no real knowledge of my legal deals. You're grasping at straws, Linda." She recognized the steely resolution in his eyes. For the first time, real fear flickered across her face. "So you'd let me go to jail? You'd let Karen face charges?" He exhaled. "You forced my hand. If you or Karen show genuine remorse, I might see if the DA will consider leniency. But if you keep threatening me, I will do nothing to stop them from throwing the book at you." She stared, voice cracking. "I never wanted it to be like this." He mustered a bitter half-smile. "Neither did I." The next morning, a professional process server arrived at the Pierce mansion, handing Linda a sealed envelope while Joseph observed from the driveway. Linda's hands shook as she tore it open, the official divorce summons. Karen, peering over Linda's shoulder, let out a gasp. The legal language was stark. Allegations of adultery, conspiracy to commit financial fraud, a demand that Linda vacate the property within 30 days. The potential for minimal spousal support hinged on her immediate cooperation and admission of guilt. Karen stared at the text. "Mom, it's real Dad's kicking us out. We have 30 days to leave our home." Linda's voice cracked. "He can't do that. I'm half owner." Joseph, still near the door, said quietly, "The property is 90% under my name, due to multiple refinance agreements. You signed them, remember? You insisted on new expansions. That gave me controlling interest." She seethed. "You tricked me." He shrugged. "You never read the fine print. You just demanded bigger renovations, bigger loans. And I consolidated them in my name for liability reasons, perfectly legal. You were too busy partying with the progressive wives to notice." Karen dropped onto a nearby chair. "We can't move out. Where would we go? Grandma's place is too small. My friends won't take us. My sorority sisters are done with me. We have no money." Joseph inhaled. "I hope you realize the gravity of your actions. If you'd simply not conspired with Thomas, you might still have an allowance. Now your accounts are frozen pending the fraud investigation." Linda's eyes brimmed with helpless rage. "Joseph, have mercy." He gave a weary sigh. "Sign the papers, Linda. Accept the settlement. Cooperate with the authorities. Then maybe you avoid prison time. Maybe you keep a modest monthly stipend. Or fight me in court, and I'll unleash every piece of evidence. The choice is yours." She clutched the envelope, tears streaming. "I hate you." He turned away. "You hate that I refuse to be your doormat any longer." That evening, Linda's hastily hired lawyer, a somewhat shady defense attorney named Ramirez, arrived to meet Joseph and Hamilton. The four sat in the Pierces' living room, tension thick. Ramirez cleared his throat. "My client acknowledges some wrongdoing, but insists the entire blame cannot rest on her. She was lured by Harrington's manipulations." Hamilton responded, "She still actively participated in fraudulent use of Joseph's accounts, threatened him publicly, conspired to humiliate him. We have volumes of proof." Linda sat rigid, face pale. Ramirez pressed on. "We propose Linda accept a no-fault divorce, receiving half the marital assets in exchange for not contesting custody." Joseph barked a short laugh. "Custody? Karen's an adult." Ramirez faltered. "Yes, well, the point is, Linda wants to avoid public trial. She'll keep quiet about Joseph's alleged skeletons in the closet if he grants her a fair share. That's beneficial for both sides." Joseph looked at Linda with quiet fury. "I'm not paying hush money. We have no skeletons. She can lie all she wants. I'll bury her in evidence of her real crimes." Hamilton slid a separate document across the table. "Here's our counter. Linda must vacate the home in 30 days. Relinquish claim to Joseph's personal accounts. Accept a modest spousal support for 5 years only if she fully cooperates with the DA, disclaiming any false rumor attempts. Any breach, we cut off support." Ramirez's eyes widened. "This is minimal. She can't survive on that." Hamilton shrugged. "Should have thought of that before she conspired to help a serial con man." Linda's voice shook. "I built this life with you, Joseph. Don't act like I contributed nothing." He glared. Your contributions were overshadowed by your betrayal and attempts to extort me. This settlement is more generous than you deserve. Ramirez tried to protest. We'll fight it. Hamilton produced a flash drive. Here's a small selection of video footage from the guest suite. Linda's interactions with Thomas, enough to prove adultery and potential conspiracy. We haven't shared this with the DA yet, but we can if negotiations fail. Linda gasped, face burning with shame. Her lawyer paused, realizing how damning that footage could be. Ramirez sighed heavily. Give us time to review. Joseph, unwavering, stood. You have 48 hours. After that, no deal. We let the DA proceed full force and Linda's name becomes a permanent fixture in criminal records. Linda's eyes flashed with desperation. You'd do that to Karen as well? He looked at her coldly. Karen is an adult. She made her bed. If she cooperates, maybe I'll speak on her behalf. Otherwise, yes, she'll face consequences too. An hour after the tense meeting ended, Karen snuck into Joseph's study again. She shut the door, tears in her eyes. Dad, Mom told me about the settlement. She's freaking out. She might sign, but she wants me to sign something too. Some statement that we never threaten you. He studied her carefully. Would that statement be truthful? Karen swallowed. I guess not. We did threaten you. But if I don't sign it, Mom says we won't get the monthly support. She insists we stand united. He rubbed his temples. Karen, stand united in lying, or break free and face partial accountability. That's your choice. If you want any chance of salvaging your future, you must stop enabling her lies. Confess your role, help the DA see you as the more naive party. Karen's tears spilled over. She's my mother, Dad. I can't just throw her under the bus. He sighed. She already threw you under the bus by involving you in her scheme. Look at your life now, scholarship in jeopardy, risk of charges. She doesn't care about your future unless it benefits her. Karen buried her face in her hands. I hate this. I was stupid. Can't you just fix it, Dad? He softened slightly. I can only do so much. I can't protect you if you continue to lie. But if you come clean and apologize publicly for your social media campaign, if you sign an affidavit supporting the truth, I'll ask the DA for leniency. She looked up, trembling. You'd do that? He nodded slowly. Yes, because despite everything, you're my daughter. But you have to show real remorse, not just fear of punishment. Karen nodded tearfully. I'll think about it. I'm so sorry, Dad. She fled the room, leaving Joseph uncertain if she truly meant it or was just stalling. 48 hours later, Linda caved. She arrived in Joseph's study, eyes hollow, hair unstyled, a shell of her former self. She carried the settlement documents with shaky hands. Karen hovered behind, not meeting Joseph's gaze. Linda spoke in a low monotone. I'll sign. I can't go to jail. I can't lose everything. This is the lesser evil. Joseph opened the folder. Good. My lawyer will notarize. Do you fully understand the conditions? She nodded numbly. Vacate in 30 days. Accept minimal spousal support. No more threats or defamation attempts. Cooperate with the DA. He extended a pen. She paused, voice wavering. I never thought you'd do all this, he replied. Me neither. But you forced me. Sign. She scribbled her name on every page, tears dripping onto the paper. Karen stood aside, arms crossed in silent misery. Linda set the pen down, exhaling in near sob. There. Happy? No, but it's necessary. Joseph retrieved the papers, verifying her signature. Karen shifted, glancing at Linda. Then she stared at Joseph, guilt and fear swirling in her eyes. Dad, I'm sorry. I want to cooperate too. Maybe sign an affidavit or something. He offered her a separate document Hamilton had prepared, an official statement acknowledging her complicity, apologizing for public humiliation attempts, pledging to assist law enforcement in the Harrington investigation. In exchange, Joseph would request leniency from the DA regarding Karen's role. She read it, tears returning. "Okay," she whispered. Then she signed, shoulders slumped. Joseph let out a long breath, feeling a strange weight lifting. The final confrontation ended, the once all-powerful Linda deflated, the once cocky Karen subdued. But the fallout was far from over. Next would come packing, facing the DA's inquiries, and the social repercussions. Days later, Linda and Karen began the humiliating process of moving out. By the 30-day mark, the mansion was half empty of Linda's personal things, many of which Joseph discovered had been purchased on his credit cards anyway. She muttered bitterly about living in a modest condo owned by Linda's sister, Lisa. Karen, losing her scholarship housing, had no choice but to join her mother. The modern family illusions shattered. Thomas Harrington remained in custody, cooperating with the DA. Several other husbands, ironically, reached out to Joseph to thank him for exposing Harrington. Some even testified how Linda had introduced their wives to Harrington. Linda's name turned toxic among the circle she once idolized. The country club officially expelled her, multiple acquaintances blocked her calls, not wanting association with the scandal. Karen faced campus disciplinary hearings. Joseph, honoring his pledge, wrote a letter to the university, emphasizing that Karen had shown remorse and was manipulated by Linda and Harrington. This led to a reduced sanction, a semester's suspension, instead of full expulsion. She might recover academically if she stayed out of further trouble. Linda found minimal support from old friends who once cheered her progressive talk. They distanced themselves to avoid negative press. She was forced to attend depositions about Harrington's alleged ring of trainer scams. She no longer had credit card access, living on the small monthly stipend from the settlement that barely covered her new rent. Linda's elderly mother, outraged at the shame Linda brought upon the family, refused to let them move into her home. So Linda's sister offered a cramped condo. For Linda, used to luxury, it was a nightmare. She privately blamed Karen for fueling the social media fiasco. Karen blamed Linda for leading them into Harrington's scheme, both overshadowed by guilt and bitterness. Meanwhile, Joseph quietly resumed a stable routine. Freed from Linda's demands, he channeled energy into expanding his law firm's portfolio, forging new alliances. People admired how gracefully he handled the fiasco, praising his restraint. The final divorce decree came through swiftly since Linda didn't dare challenge the mountain of evidence. She walked away with minimal spousal support and a tarnished reputation. 2 months post-divorce, Joseph lingered in his study one evening, reflecting on the journey from naive tolerance to strategic triumph. His phone buzzed with a text from Karen. "Dad, starting therapy. Trying to get my life on track. Thank you for intervening with the DA. Maybe someday we can talk." He stared at the message, heart conflicted. A slow path to partial reconciliation might exist for them, but trust would be hard to rebuild. He typed a brief reply. "I'm glad you're seeking help. Best of luck." No promises, no immediate forgiveness, but an acknowledgement. Then, he checked another message, from Hamilton, confirming that Harrington had pled guilty to multiple counts. Linda's name was in the official record as an accomplice, but with Joseph's documentation, she avoided jail time barely. She faced probationary checks and mandatory financial restitution. Finally alone in his reclaimed house, Joseph stepped outside onto the balcony. The city lights stretched below, reminding him how everything had changed. Yet, for the first time in years, he felt calm. No more manipulative wife draining his accounts. No more daughter mocking him daily. Hard as it was, he found clarity in setting boundaries. He whispered to the night air, "Let them live with their choices." In the quiet that followed, he realized he had done what was necessary not out of cruelty, but out of self-preservation and justice. If that made him the villain in Linda's eyes, so be it. He had survived their betrayal, dismantled their toxic illusions, and emerged with dignity, assets, and a renewed sense of self-worth. About 3 weeks after the final decree, Joseph received an unexpected call from the university's counseling center. A counselor, Ms. Florence, politely asked if Joseph could come in for a mediated talk with Karen. At first, Joseph hesitated, suspecting another manipulation. But Ms. Florence explained that Karen had requested a healing session to apologize and discuss future steps. He decided to attend, cautious but open to hearing his daughter out. At the counseling office, Karen looked younger, frailer. Gone was the designer clothing. She wore simple jeans and a t-shirt. The defiant spark in her eyes was replaced by guilt and longing. "Dad," she began softly. Ms. Florence guided them to seats. Karen wrung her hands. "I want to say I'm sorry. Truly. I messed up so bad, Dad. I believed everything Mom said, that you were stifling us and that we needed to force you to accept new ways. I never realized how manipulative and hateful it was." He studied her carefully. "I appreciate you acknowledging it. But words alone don't fix everything." She nodded, tears brimming. "I know. I joined therapy sessions. I told the counselor everything, my social media obsession, how I got wrapped up in Mom's illusions. We planned to humiliate you, and that was so wrong." Ms. Florence gently added, "Karen has made progress in accepting responsibility. She hopes to mend the father-daughter relationship if you're willing." Joseph exhaled, tension in his chest. "Karen, I'm not sure how to rebuild trust, but I'm glad you're taking steps. The damage you helped cause my reputation might be fine, but emotionally it cut deep." She sobbed. "I know. I don't deserve forgiveness. But maybe we can start talking again. Not about money or arguments, just you and me." He felt a pang of old paternal love stirring. Despite her betrayals, she was still his child. "We can try, but it'll be slow. I can't pretend it's all good overnight." Karen nodded, tears of relief. "Thank you, Dad." Ms. Florence guided them to schedule a series of father-daughter therapy sessions, urging them to approach each other with honest dialogue. Joseph agreed tentatively, seeing a chance for partial healing. Karen also informed him that she wrote a formal apology to the district attorney, clarifying her role in Harrington's scheme and Linda's pushes. The DA decided to reduce Karen's potential charge to a lower offense with probation. "I'm unbelievably lucky," she said, voice trembling. "Mom's not so lucky, still under heavier scrutiny." Meanwhile, Linda's compliance with the settlement was shaky. She paid lip service to cooperating, but privately seethed. Living in her sister's cramped condo, she found her old social circle ignoring her calls. The local media had run short articles about the trainer scam, tarnishing her name. She faced court-mandated financial restitution, a monthly sum she had to pay to certain victims of Thomas's scheme, plus probation check-ins. One afternoon, Linda cornered Karen in their cramped living room. "You're betraying me too, cozying up to your father again, testifying you were misled." "Great. Now the DA thinks I was the real instigator." Karen bit her lip. "Mom, that's partly true. You introduced me to Thomas's whole plan." Linda exploded. "Don't you blame me for everything. You were plenty enthusiastic about humiliating your father, remember?" Karen shrank. "I know, but I'm trying to fix things." Linda threw up her arms. "Fix what, huh? My life's in ruins. Joseph's winning everything, my clubs, my friends, my money, and you're helping him now? Tears slid down Karen's cheeks. He's not winning. He's just defending himself from what we did. Furious, Linda hissed, "We'll see about that. I might still let slip a rumor or two about Joseph's business deals." Karen paled. "Mom, if you do that, you violate the settlement's no defamation clause. You'll lose even the minimal spousal support, and the DA might arrest you for breach of agreement." Linda cursed under her breath. She realized the legal muzzle was tight. She had no good options. Thus her resentment simmered, fueling her bitterness but leaving her powerless. For Joseph, life regained a semblance of normalcy. He moved between his law firm's expansions and his father-daughter therapy sessions. The house felt more peaceful, though a quiet emptiness lingered where once a family pretended to be normal. He discovered small joys, finishing projects at home without Linda demanding new renovations, reading in the living room without Karen filming him for mockery, enjoying an honest conversation with staff who no longer tiptoed around Linda's outbursts. Charles visited often, congratulating him on a well-handled storm. "You overcame the worst of it. Linda's meltdown is infamous now among your old social circles. But your reputation stands intact. People see you as patient yet firm." Joseph offered a slight smile. "I never wanted public drama, but they forced my hand." Hamilton also reported that the divorce paperwork was final. Linda's attempts to dispute the asset distribution collapsed under the evidence of her wrongdoing. She left with a fraction of the wealth she once flaunted. Joseph commissioned a small renovation to remove some gaudy decor Linda had insisted on. Freed of her demands, he restored parts of the house's simpler design, a metaphor for purging Linda's toxic influence. One afternoon, the private investigator, Lisa Hastings, requested a final debrief with Joseph in his study. She arrived with a neat folder. Footage from the Gala meltdown. Statements from Glendale's detective confirming Harrington's guilty plea. Court docs on Linda's probation terms. Lisa Hastings summarized, "Mr. Harrington pled guilty to multiple counts, expects a multi-year sentence. Linda avoided prison by signing a cooperation deal. She's on a tight leash, financially and legally." Joseph nodded. "What about Karen's standing?" "She's under probation but not criminally convicted, thanks to your advocacy. The DA recognized her lesser role once she apologized." The final piece, "Your house is entirely yours. No more spousal claims from Linda." A wave of relief passed through him. "Then we're done here. Thank you, Miss Hastings, for everything. I appreciate your thoroughness." She smiled. "Happy to help. I see these stories so often, wives or husbands deceiving each other. Rarely do I see such a well-executed counter-scheme. Good luck moving forward." He walked her to the door, feeling a sense of closure. The madness was over. A month later, Joseph stood on his balcony at dusk. The city lights flickered below, symbolic of new beginnings. The final settlement checks to Linda had begun a modest monthly sum, and ironically, she had to pay partial restitution to Harrington's other victims out of that limited budget. She'd soon realize how precarious life felt without Joseph's endless funding. Karen resumed partial classes, no longer living on campus but commuting from Linda's cramped condo. Occasionally, she texted Joseph about scheduling father-daughter therapy. He planned to continue it, hoping to salvage something from their relationship. She seemed genuinely contrite, less arrogant. Maybe time would heal that wound. He gazed at the sky, reflecting on how drastically his life had changed in mere months. He recalled the naive man who once tolerated subtle disrespect, trying to keep a dysfunctional peace. Now he was free from Linda's manipulations. The cost was high emotional scars, a broken family, but at least his dignity and finances remained intact. A beep from his phone signaled a message from an old friend. "Heard about your final settlement. Proud of you for standing up for yourself. Congrats on your fresh start." He typed a simple reply. "Thank you. Sometimes the only way to protect what you value is to fight back. Smiling slightly, Joseph shut off his phone and allowed the quiet of the evening to enfold him. The echoes of Linda and Karen's laughter, once mocking, no longer haunted these halls. Instead, they served as reminders of a lesson learned. Trust must be earned, not demanded, and no matter how deeply betrayal cuts, truth and strategy can prevail. He closed his eyes, breathing in the night air. Part 1 of his story, the story of a seemingly weak husband who turned out to be anything but, was complete. A new chapter of his life beckoned, unburdened by illusions. Part 2. 2 months have passed since Linda and Karen vacated Joseph's mansion. The house now feels remarkably calm, almost too quiet. But Joseph gradually adapts to the absence of their daily chaos. His law firm, Pierce & Associates, has flourished. Clients admire how gracefully he handled his scandal, proving himself a master of crisis management. On a breezy Tuesday morning, Joseph stands on the mansion's balcony, sipping coffee and checking messages. Among them are 2 short texts from Karen. "Dad, therapy session with Miss Florence tomorrow at 4 p.m. Can you make it?" "I'm trying. Please talk to me." He exhales, torn between the desire to reconnect and the lingering hurt of her betrayal. During the last session, Karen had revealed more about how Linda's anger influenced her decisions. Joseph glimpsed a genuine remorse, but trust remains fragile. A ring from the gate intercom interrupts his thoughts. The screen shows Lisa Delgado, his longtime executive assistant, stepping out of her car. She'd texted earlier about needing to share an urgent but not alarming update. Joseph buzzes her in, preparing mentally for potential new developments. Lisa Delgado arrives with a folder in hand, greeting Joseph with a polite nod. She glances around at the freshly redecorated foyer. "The place looks different, simpler. I like it." He half smiles. Removed a few of Linda's extravagant touches. They settle in the living room. Lisa sets the folder down. 2 matters. 1. The Midvale community invited you to speak at their annual legal forum. Seems your reputation soared after the divorce fiasco. She smiles. And 2nd, I've received a curious letter from your ex-mother-in-law. Joseph's eyes narrow. Linda's mother, Dahlia? We haven't spoken in months. Lisa nods. Yes, she claims Linda's bitterness is out of control. She fears Linda might attempt some new revenge or spread fabricated rumors about you despite the settlement's no defamation clause. Dahlia begs you to intervene or at least watch out. Joseph sets his jaw. I shouldn't be surprised. Linda always finds ways to stir trouble. She's bound by the settlement terms, though. Lisa hands him the letter. Dahlia's words convey alarm. Linda rants about how Joseph escaped punishment while she suffers, talking about exposing secrets. Dahlia pleads with Joseph to remain vigilant. I sense Linda's mania, the letter reads. She's scaring me. She keeps mentioning he can't keep me silent forever. He sighs, recalling how Linda threatened to smear him if he didn't cave. Let her try. The legal triggers are in place. Lisa stands. Right. We'll keep watch. Also, I have your schedule tomorrow's father-daughter therapy at 4. You're free until 6. Then the Midvale Forum next week if you accept. Joseph nods, grateful for Lisa's efficiency. Wednesday, 4 p.m. Joseph enters the modest therapy clinic, a far cry from the luxurious counseling offices Linda once insisted on. Inside, Ms. Florence greets him warmly, guiding him to her comfortable, if small, session room. Karen waits, looking tense but determined. Ms. Florence begins with a gentle tone. It's good to see you both. Karen's made progress acknowledging her part in the previous fiasco. Now we focus on repairing father-daughter trust. Karen's voice trembles slightly. Dad, I want to keep apologizing, But I know words only go so far. I'm doing everything Ms. Florence suggests, journaling, admitting how toxic I became. I want you to see I'm serious about changing. Joseph studies her face. I appreciate that. It's just after the things you said and did, helping your mother publicly humiliate me, demanding I finance it, I can't instantly erase those memories. Karen's eyes glisten. I know. I was living in a bubble, idolizing Mom's worldview. She said you were controlling, you cared only about money. I believed it. Then Thomas seemed so cool, and we wanted to force you to adapt, forgetting your feelings entirely. He exhales. It hurt deeply, Karen. I'd spent years providing for you both, only to be ridiculed. She nods vigorously. I see that now. Miss Florence helped me realize I was craving acceptance from Mom. She fed me an image that you were the boring problem, but once everything collapsed, I saw she manipulated me, too. Miss Florence gently interjects. Karen, have you told your father about your willingness to testify truthfully in any ongoing investigation? Karen looks at Joseph. Yes, Dad. I told the DA everything how Mom orchestrated it, how I posted those humiliations. I took a plea for my role in the fraud. They gave me a suspended sentence, as you know. Thank you for advocating on my behalf. Joseph's shoulders relax a fraction. I did it because I believe you can change. But trust rebuilding is a slow process. Keep consistent with therapy. Keep away from Linda's negativity. Karen smiles sadly. I'm living with her, but it's miserable. She's angry all the time. Blaming you. Blaming me. Refusing therapy. I might look for a part-time job and move out. Ms. Florence says it's best for my mental health. Joseph nods. That might be wise. If you need a small loan for rent, assuming you remain honest, I'll consider it. But no more unlimited credit. Karen's eyes fill with tears of relief. Thank you, Dad. That means so much. They spend the remainder of the session discussing boundaries, communication, and Ms. Florence's guidelines for re-establishing a healthy father-daughter bond. While not fully healed, progress is visible. A week later, Joseph attends the Midvale Legal Forum as a guest speaker on handling corporate crises. Surrounded by attorneys, corporate executives, and budding professionals, he delivers a poised lecture. The Q&A portion inevitably touches on personal crisis management, referencing rumors about his public divorce drama. He addresses it calmly. In any crisis, business, or personal gathering facts, verifying legal standing and acting with composure is key. Emotions can't override logic when the stakes are high. A wave of respectful nods passes through the audience. Some approach afterward, praising his resilience. Others share their own anecdotes of betrayal, seeking advice. For the first time, Joseph realizes how his story resonates, not as a scandal, but as a testament to strategic self-defense. One attendee, a businesswoman named Lisa Ortega, coincidentally sharing a first name with Joseph's investigator, but unrelated, discreetly, confides that she endured a similar humiliating situation with an ex-husband. She thanks Joseph for speaking publicly, as it gives her courage to confront her ex's manipulations. Joseph offers her a business card, forging a new connection, perhaps a subtle hint of future companionship. Meanwhile, Linda stews in her sister Dahlia's cramped condo. The monthly spousal support is minimal, her reputation in tatters, and Thomas remains incarcerated. She can't blame Karen, who's actively trying to rectify her life. Linda's old friend circle has ghosted her. She seethes, determined to claw back some control. She rummages through old diaries and alleged dirt on Joseph's business operations from years past. Most of it is hearsay, random notes of corporate expansions, legal disputes. She convinces herself the public might believe her if she claims Joseph was unethical. One evening, Linda contacts a small, scandal-hungry tabloid blogger known for sensationalizing half-truths. She supplies them with old documents worthless in real legal terms, but potentially damaging if spun cleverly. The blogger, Travis Hiller, sniffs a juicy story. Wealthy man overcame humiliating meltdown, but was he hiding shady business deals? Linda, ignoring the settlement's no defamation clause, shares these documents hoping to spark a rumor meltdown. She believes Joseph will be forced to pay her more to keep it quiet. Days later, a sensational blog post titled "The Real Joseph Pierce" emerges, accusing him of mystery accounts, questionable partner deals, etc. The article references Linda as an anonymous inside source, but it's obvious who it is. The claims are vague but scandalous enough to attract clicks. Social media picks up the story. Ex-wife exposes corporate secrets, trending in certain trashy gossip corners. Joseph's phone blows up with messages from colleagues or acquaintances. Many see it as nonsense, especially after the fiasco Linda caused. But the article stirs enough curiosity that Joseph must respond. Hamilton calls, "She's violated the defamation clause. We can immediately cut off her monthly spousal support and sue for breach." Joseph, though furious, remains calm. "Yes, let's proceed, but ensure we handle it publicly so it discredits Linda's attempt." They quickly file an official legal response, pointing out Linda's violation of the settlement. Meanwhile, Joseph's PR counsel issues a statement refuting the blogger's claims, labeling them fabricated by a disgruntled ex-spouse. Evidence is provided, official audits clearing Joseph's firm, references from partners vouching for his integrity. When confronted with potential lawsuits and zero credible evidence, blogger Travis Hiller backtracks. He quietly issues a retraction, claiming our source's claims were unsubstantiated, but the damage is partially done. Linda's attempt fails to extract hush money. Instead, Joseph cuts off her spousal support per the settlement's penalty clause. Realizing her plan backfired again, Linda rages at Dahlia's condo. Dahlia, exasperated, demands Linda move out. Karen stands by, horrified, as Linda screams how Joseph ruined her life. Dahlia retorts that Linda brought it upon herself. Karen tries to calm her mother, but Linda lashes out at everyone. Police arrive with official notice. Linda's violation of the settlement, publishing defamation, triggers Joseph's right to enforce restitution. She must vacate Dahlia's condo within a week, or Dahlia will forcibly evict her. Linda is left with no stable home, no spousal support, no friends. She contemplates fleeing the city or living in cheap motels. Karen calls Joseph in tears. "Dad, Mom's being evicted from Grandma's condo. She's blaming you. She says she might skip town. I'm worried about her mental state." Joseph closes his eyes, exhaustion hitting him. Linda's meltdown is unstoppable. "Karen, she violated the agreement. This is the legal consequence. I can't fix it for her." Karen sniffles. "I know. Do you think you can talk to her? She might listen if you—" He interrupts gently. "I doubt it. But for your sake, I'll try one last phone call." He calls Linda and she picks up, sobbing. "Joseph, everything's gone. Please, just let me keep some spousal support. I was desperate." He replies solemnly, "Linda, you forced my hand again. You broke the no defamation clause. That means no more support. I cannot override a legal contract we both signed. You'd have to petition the court, but they'll see your violation. I'm sorry you're in this position, but it's your doing." She bawls uncontrollably. "Then I have nothing. Nothing left." His heart twinges with faint pity, but he remains firm. "I was once open to a civil settlement. You repeatedly escalated. I can't save you from yourself." She hangs up, leaving a hollow silence in Joseph's ear. Karen, seeing her mother's final descent, chooses to separate from Linda. With Ms. Florence's guidance, she rents a small room near campus. She works part-time at a local coffee shop, living frugally. Freed from Linda's daily bitterness, she focuses on redeeming her academic and personal life. One evening, Karen meets Joseph for a coffee. She looks tired but determined. "Dad, I wanted to say I'm grateful you never gave up on me entirely. I'm working to repay the restitution fees from my DA deal. It's tough, but I'll manage." He acknowledges her growth. "I see you trying, Karen. Keep it up, and maybe one day we can truly move past all this." She musters a small smile. "I hope so." Karen confides a plan. She wants to record a public apology video to address her old social media followers, clarifying that Joseph was never the villain, that she was manipulated, and to disclaim her harmful posts. Joseph is hesitant. Any more public drama? But she insists it's part of her therapy assignment, a step towards restitution. He sighs, eventually agreeing. "If it helps your conscience, do it. Just keep it respectful." She nods, resolved. 2 weeks later, Linda quietly leaves town, rumors say. Dahlia mentions Linda boarded a bus to a distant city, seeking a fresh start or possibly living with an old acquaintance. No official address left behind. Despite her bitterness, the city collectively shrugs. She burned every bridge. Karen's apology video circulates on modest social channels. Many viewers recall her previous humiliations. Some respond with scorn, others with cautious support. "At least she's owning up," a few comment. Joseph sees the video, feeling a complicated mix of relief and sadness. She is indeed trying to rectify the damage. In the final scene of Part 2, Joseph strolls through his reclaimed home, each room no longer haunted by Linda's extravagance or Karen's mocking presence. He stops by the living room window, recalling the chaotic meltdown that once took place under this roof, how naive he had been, how thoroughly he had turned the tables. Now, he stands as a man who faced betrayal, yet emerged with dignity, assets, and a reawakening of self-worth. The phone buzzes. A message from the new business contact, Lisa Ortega, congratulating him on a recent interview. He smiles slightly, contemplating the possibility of forging new personal connections. Part 2 ends with Joseph stepping outside onto the terrace under a twilight sky, the city lights shimmering. Freed from the past, open to the future, he breathes in the crisp air. Justice done, illusions shattered, he begins to truly live anew. Part 3. 3 weeks have passed since Linda's desperate attempt at defamation backfired. The public scandal has largely died down, overshadowed by other headlines. Joseph's name remains respected. People see him as a man who overcame betrayal with strategy and composure. Nevertheless, a faint worry nags at him. Linda's capacity for chaos. Late on a crisp autumn afternoon, Joseph sips coffee on his mansion's balcony, once a stage for heated confrontations, now a quiet refuge. He glances at his phone. A text from Lisa Ortega, the businesswoman he befriended at the Midvale Forum. She's in town asking if he'd like to meet for coffee or dinner. He's about to reply when Karen texts, "Dad, I'm volunteering at a youth legal aid center. Ms. Florence thinks it's good for me. Wish me luck." He smiles, relieved Karen is channeling her remorse into constructive work. Her progress continues to be genuine. She remains in therapy, slowly regaining confidence. Joseph sets down his mug, determined to encourage her further, a bright step in both father and daughter's healing. He meets Lisa Ortega at a cozy bistro that evening. She arrives wearing a warm smile, her demeanor exuding quiet confidence. Over plates of pasta, conversation flows from business to personal reflections. She reveals more about her own divorce. Her ex-husband tried to smear her name after she left him. Hearing Joseph's story made her realize she wasn't alone in dealing with manipulative exes. Joseph finds Lisa's perspective refreshing. She's empathetic, but not pitying. "You've shown me it's possible to come out stronger," she says softly. Their rapport suggests a potential friendship, maybe more. By the meal's end, Lisa suggests meeting again, and Joseph agrees, sensing a new chapter unfolding. Back at his office, Joseph reviews the day's schedule with his assistant, Lisa Delgado. She mentions a curious phone call from an unknown number claiming to represent Linda. They said Linda might be heading back to the city soon. Sounded vague, but they asked if you'd reconsider a settlement addendum. He frowns. Her settlement is final. She violated it. I owe her nothing further. His mind replays Dahlia's warning that Linda might attempt more sabotage or pleas. He's torn between ignoring it or preparing for a potential confrontation. Let's quietly inform Hamilton, he decides. We'll be ready for anything. Meanwhile, across town, Karen immerses herself in volunteering at a youth legal aid center. She helps teens from broken homes or manipulative guardians, recognizing echoes of her own mistakes. Surrounded by real struggles, she gains perspective on her privileged yet toxic upbringing. One afternoon, a teenage client asks Karen bluntly, "Why do you volunteer? You look like you never wanted for anything." Karen's throat tightens. She answers with honesty, "I had everything. Yet I still hurt the person who loved me most. Now I'm learning to do better." The teen regards her with curiosity, maybe respect. Karen heads home feeling a strange sense of peace. Late that night, Joseph returns home to find an envelope slipped under his front door. Inside is a note scrawled in agitated handwriting. "You think you're safe? You're not. The truth will surface, and you'll pay. L." He stares at the note, anger rising. Linda is indeed back in town, or at least her threat is. Instead of alarm, he feels a steely resolve. He's weathered her worst. This changes nothing except it confirms she's lurking somewhere, fueling trouble. He snaps a photo of the note, forwarding it to Hamilton. The reply, "We can file a restraining order if she approaches. Keep your guard up." A few days later, Joseph briefs Hamilton about the threatening note. The attorney warns that while the note alone isn't enough for legal action, it's further proof of Linda's harassment. "She has no legal standing left," Hamilton says, "but keep documenting everything." Shortly after, Joseph receives a call from Charles, a mutual old friend from college who was once close to both Joseph and Linda. "Linda contacted me," Charles says warily. "She's ranting about exposing you. She thinks there must be skeletons in your closet." Joseph sighs. She's grasping at straws. They arrange to meet in person, hoping Charles might glean Linda's next move. Possibly, they can defuse her mania. Evening, Karen calls Joseph with urgency. She's in tears again. "Dad, Mom cornered me at the volunteer center. She's furious that I don't take her side. She demanded I help her sabotage you, or she'll disown me." Karen is trembling over the phone. "She said I was betraying her like you did. I told her I'm done being used." Joseph's stomach knots. He empathizes with Karen's turmoil. "Stay calm. Let Miss Florence know. I'll handle Linda's threats legally." Karen's voice quavers. "She's truly lost it, Dad. She said she has some final bombshell to ruin you. Please be careful." He reassures her they'll stand firm. Charles visits Joseph's office the next day. He looks uneasy. "Joseph, Linda claims she has a recording from years back, some conversation that allegedly implicates you in unscrupulous business deals. She threatened to leak it if you don't pay her under the table." Joseph's brow furrows. "Nonsense! I always kept my dealings above board. The so-called recording must be fabricated or out of context." Charles nods. "Yes, But a manipulated snippet might cause a PR headache. She's convinced it'll force you to cave. Joseph calmly responds, "Let her try. The courts and the public know her track record, but thanks for the heads-up." That evening, Joseph has a planned dinner with Lisa Ortega. Over a quiet table at a riverside restaurant, he shares Linda's newest threat. Lisa listens intently, then remarks, "She's playing her final card, an emotional blackmail attempt, but you've come too far to be rattled." He exhales, relieved by her confidence. "I guess so. I just hate the thought of another public fiasco." Lisa rests her hand lightly on his. "You're not alone, Joseph. If she tries anything, we fight it with the truth like last time. Meanwhile, you have a life to live. Don't let her rob you of peace again." Her words buoy him. As dinner ends, they linger in comfortable conversation, forging a gentle closeness. A subtle flicker of possibility flutters between them. Maybe love can indeed bloom after devastation. Following Lisa's advice, Joseph orchestrates a preemptive strategy with Hamilton. They suspect Linda may attempt another leak or blackmail. If they can get her to reveal her false evidence or extortion demands, they'll have grounds for criminal charges. They quietly let Charles hint to Linda that Joseph might be open to discussing a private settlement if Linda's evidence is real. Hamilton sets up a secure channel to record any communications. The plan is risky, but might end Linda's harassment once and for all. A few nights later, Linda takes the bait. She contacts Joseph from a burner phone. Voice trembling with manic excitement, she claims she's holding a damning audio tape of Joseph discussing an illegal scheme years ago. She demands $500K in hush money, or she'll release it to the tabloids. Joseph, on speakerphone with Hamilton silently recording, remains calm. "Let's meet to verify. I might consider a private arrangement if the tape is real." Linda, triumphant, sets the meeting for tomorrow evening at a shabby motel on the city outskirts, her new hideout. Hamilton arranges for Detective Irene, a trusted contact, to be on standby. Joseph heads to the motel wearing a concealed recorder. Hamilton and Detective Irene wait nearby in an unmarked car. The tension in the air is thick as Joseph knocks on a flickering motel door. Linda opens, haggard, eyes wild. Inside, a battered laptop and some memory sticks lie on a stained desk. She brandishes a flash drive. "It's all here. A conversation from years ago. You were bragging about hush payments to quell a competitor lawsuit. Pay me $500,000 and I'll bury it forever." Joseph's expression remains neutral. "Let me hear it." Linda smirks, playing an audio snippet. The audio is scratchy, voices muffled. It sounds vaguely like Joseph's voice referencing settlement money to keep them silent. Linda smirks. "That enough to ruin you? Or do you need more proof?" He gently sets a check on the table, fake check prepared by Hamilton. "Sign a confidentiality agreement and it's yours," he says. She greedily reaches for the check. Finally, you see reason. Suddenly, the motel door opens. Detective Irene, Hamilton, plus 2 uniformed officers step inside. Linda whirls in panic. "What? You set me up again!" The detective brandishes a warrant for extortion. "Linda, your attempt to blackmail Joseph with fabricated evidence is illegal." Linda sputters, waving the flash drive. "It's real. He's not innocent." They confiscate the drive, playing the audio. Hamilton calmly explains it's doctored. The original words are from a legitimate settlement conversation about an intellectual property dispute from years ago, fully legal. Linda's splicing is obvious to tech experts. Linda rants in desperation as the officers cuff her for extortion attempt. Detective Irene leads Linda out in handcuffs. She shrieks, "This is Joseph's fault! He manipulated me!" But her cries ring hollow, the tenuous illusions she clung to unravel in front of her. Joseph stands in the dim motel hallway, watching as Linda is taken away, a swirl of pity and relief inside him. Another final meltdown, another misguided plot to extort him. At last, the end. Hamilton pats Joseph's shoulder. "You handled that calmly. Good job." They provide statements to the detective, ensuring the entire attempt is recorded. The prearranged plan succeeded flawlessly. Linda's final gambit is done. Across the city, Karen receives a frantic call from her mother's new phone. She answers only to hear Linda screaming about betrayal. "I'm arrested again because of your father's trap." Karen, shaking her head, terminates the call. She texts Joseph, "Mom tried blackmail? I'm done. Let her face the consequences." Joseph's chest tightens, thinking how hard this must be for Karen, her mother arrested, father standing firm. He replies, "Stay strong. I'm proud you've chosen truth." Karen, tears in her eyes, breathes deeply, relieved her father sees her changed heart. She resolves to continue forging her path forward, no longer shackled to Linda's manipulations. A month later, Linda's final extortion attempt leads to a short but decisive trial. The judge sees overwhelming evidence of her repeated manipulations. Already on probation for earlier charges, Linda now faces real jail time. Meanwhile, Joseph, calmly testifying, remains composed, explaining how Linda attempted to blackmail him with doctored recordings. The court finds Linda guilty of violating her previous probation. She's sentenced to a year in county jail, plus mandatory psychiatric counseling. Karen attends the sentencing, quietly weeping for her mother but also recognizing it as a needed outcome. Joseph offers Karen a small hug outside the courthouse. She doesn't push away, whispering, "I guess this is truly rock bottom for Mom." Joseph nods sadly. All we can do is hope she finally accepts real help. With Linda imprisoned, Karen feels a guilty relief. She can now fully embrace her new life unshackled from Linda's bitterness. Ms. Florence's therapy sessions remain a cornerstone. Karen also finalizes a modest scholarship from a philanthropic group that recognized her volunteer work at the Youth Legal Aid Center. She's determined to finish college. One afternoon, Joseph surprises Karen with a small car, nothing extravagant, just a reliable used sedan. "For commuting," he says, handing her the keys. She's overcome with gratitude. "Dad, I don't deserve your generosity," he smiles. "You're proving you do. Just keep going." She hugs him, an emotional closeness returning after all the heartbreak. Meanwhile, Joseph's friendship with Lisa Ortega blossoms. They share lunches, talk about business strategies, personal philosophies, and gradually open up about deeper topics, trusting after betrayal, balancing independence with vulnerability. One evening, she invites Joseph to a charity event she's co-sponsoring. He accepts. At the event, Joseph witnesses Lisa's poise, her compassionate engagement with attendees. She sees him comfortable in social settings, no longer overshadowed by Linda's demands. As they dance, conversation shifts from business to personal. A mutual warmth emerges the possibility of a genuine relationship. After the event, Lisa confides that she was initially wary of men who overcame messy divorces, fearing hidden anger. But Joseph's calm resilience showed her a different path. She wonders if they can explore something more than friendship. Joseph, feeling an unexpected stir of hope, nods. Let's see where it goes. Epilogue. Final weeks pass with Linda serving her sentence, Karen advancing in college, Joseph continuing his successful legal practice. The city's gossip stops focusing on their scandal. New drama arises elsewhere. Joseph occasionally receives letters from Linda's mother, Dahlia, who updates him that Linda's forced therapy in jail might be her last shot at redemption. Joseph, though still hurt, quietly hopes Linda might find healing for Karen's sake. On a bright Saturday, Joseph invites Karen, Dahlia, and a few close acquaintances to a small backyard cookout, something simple, normal, a sign of how life has changed. Karen arrives smiling, no trace of the old condescending sneer. Dahlia thanks Joseph for letting her come. They share casual talk, none of the old tension overshadowing them. Late in the evening, Lisa Ortega drops by with a polite wave, greeting Karen, meeting Dahlia. The conversation flows easily. Karen watches her father and Lisa interact, noticing a warmth in his eyes she'd never seen before. She meets Joseph's gaze, and he nods slightly, an unspoken acknowledgement that he's found a new happiness. Karen smiles, feeling relieved that her father can move on. In a private moment by the garden, Lisa says to Joseph, "You've rebuilt your life piece by piece." He gently takes her hand. Couldn't have done it alone. They share a comfortable silence, the setting sun bathing them in soft orange light. Peace at last. Part 3 closes with Joseph stepping inside to gather more lemonade, hearing Karen laughing with Dahlia, hearing Lisa chatting with an old friend. A sense of contentment envelops him. Linda's manipulations are behind him, her final meltdown dealt with. He's free to shape his future, no more overshadowed by betrayal, but guided by new beginnings. The laughter from the backyard mingles with the twilight air, symbolizing the joy of second chances.